you find that they must look at the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Right, welcome back to the program. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to bring you up to date and up to speed with what the papers are saying this morning, the stories they're reporting. We're going to take a quick look at some of the national dailies this morning to bring you up to date with the stories on the front pages. And as is tradition, we start with the Daily Trust newspaper for today. So let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust for today, Wednesday, October 11, 2023. Gunmen abduct 4 Nasarawa University female students. And we're still learning more about that development and a possible rescue mission by the operatives to, address those concerns. It's very disturbing. And the disturbing part also, or an extra level of concern for me, is that this is their first year in school, Maria. They're all 100 level students.
Wow.
And just imagine how they would have to live with the trauma of this experience.
Exactly.
Going
this is
forward.
like, I want my child in the high institution.
For anybody to be kidnapped in this manner, I know it's going to be traumatic. But for someone who recently just left secondary school, with all the excitement about going to university,
and
then this happens, very disturbing indeed. Page 22 has details about that incident. Army discovers bombs in Ikeja 21 years after blast, begins clearance. And they're saying they're moving those ordinances to Agility, part of Ogun State. Northwest governors chart ways for regional development agenda and security. Page 22 has more information about that. And the big story on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper today talks about IMF asking the CBN to continue raising interest rates. It says this is the best way possible to stabilize Nigeria's growth, economic growth that is. And experts say economic growth too weak for that. Well, it's safe to say that there are divergent views about what the IMF is prescribing for the central bank at the current. And
that has always been a problem, though.
Yeah, I mean, what they want versus what is best for us, they're not necessarily aligned, right? Unfortunately, that is the situation that we're dealing with. And unpacking that story, looking at the riders, Nigeria's growth projection cut to 2.9%. According to the federal government, our focus on non-debt funds flow and stabilized Naira, curb speculative forex, reps urge central bank. So this from our very own Sunday Michael Ogu, who is in Morocco attending that summit. This is the latest. Anyway, the IMF said a lot more than that. They also praised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's reforms. They say we're heading in the right direction. They're happy about the subsidy removal. Guess who is not happy about subsidy removal? Nigerians. Anyway, moving on. The front page of the Daily Trust newspaper: vehicle import drops by over 100% in 5 years. Why North has not moved forward in education, according to the Sultan. So get to the thoughts of the Sultan on page 6. Israel versus Palestine. Netanyahu trying to start another world war, according to Bolaji Akinyemi. Okay, I shudder at the thought of another world war. I haven't experienced one, and by God, I don't want to experience one.
Me too, and everybody else would say the same. Yeah,
page 26 has more on the thoughts of Bolaji Akinyemi. And you can see that picture on the front page as Governor Dikorada launches Katsina Community Watch Corps. And the governor was also dressed in the Corps' uniform yesterday, where other governors were there.
Very unusual.
The former president, the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, was there. And we do hope that this provides some sort of security for communities across Katsina State that have to grapple with, banditry attacks and the likes.
Exactly.
That's it on the front page of the Daily Trust.
All right, let's move on to First News, and it starts with a kicker that has that's the lead story this morning. It's on the November 11 polls. 5.4 million voters to elect next Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi governors. That's coming from INEC. And it says declares Bayelsa has 1,056,882 registered voters. Imo has 2,419,922. Kogi 1,932,654. And it also said that 16 political parties sponsoring candidates in Bayelsa and 17 in Imo, 18 in Kogi. That's the lead story in the first news. Let's see above that lead story. We have reps to probe a use of dollar as the legal tender in Nigeria. And we also have Tinubu's certificate saga, Nigerians in diaspora losing jobs. It's coming from Timmy Frank. You might want to get more details on that. And then we also have Bayelsa governorship as a kicker. I'm fighting Silver's character, not APC. That's coming from Governor Doye Derry there. And the military court jails Army general 7 years for stealing $2.1 million and 1.65 billion naira. And just above that, at the masthead, we have alleged forgery as a kicker. And Atiku Abubakar is saying why his SSCE certificate bears Sadiq Abubakar. All right, you can get more details of that. And the first news this morning, that's about the news we'll be taking from this newspaper.
All right, the Punch is up next. Starting from the top, Senate condemns 2.3 trillion naira oil theft, probes security agents. Inflation to slow Nigeria's growth to 2.9%, says IMF. Flood kills 45, displaces 171,545 persons across 13 states. This is from the National Emergency Management Agency. The big story on the front page of the Punch newspaper talks about Nigeria's forex crisis. Naira plunges to 1,025 naira to the dollar. Job losses, factories shut down, loom. I mean, this is a very gloomy headline.
It is.
The writer says forex crisis hinders raw materials procurement, causes financial problems, according to NECA. And SMEs decry impending shutdown. Reps probe airlines, schools demanding dollars. My goodness, which school is that? Anyway, there must be elite schools.
Yeah, most of these elite schools. How do you get the dollar is?
Why should you?
Right now.
Why would people want to, pay for services in a foreign currency? I mean, I get that the dollar is a reserve currency, but it should be illegal to buy anything with a dollar here in Nigeria.
It is not a legal tender, so yes.
Yeah, you're basically undermining the local currency, and that in itself is very unpatriotic, to say the least. You have a picture there of the end of pilgrims, disappointed pilgrims, I might add, as the Pilgrims Commission, the NCPC suspends pilgrimage to Israel. Lagos contingents return. Obviously, it's not safe to visit Israel at this point in time, where the country, is facing military,
sort of conflict
activities with, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and most of Israel is also pretty much on high alert right now because some of those territories have been facing attacks.
Pilgrimage
from
have
Hamas
been
fighters.
Suspended.
Yeah, exactly. So for the pilgrims, disappointment, but also you would say that they have dodged a bullet. I mean, metaphorically speaking, and then realistically speaking, because you don't want to be
caught up in all of
visiting
this.
those holy sites, yes, and get caught up on this one. 18 parties jostle for 5.4 million votes in Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa. At the end of the day, guess what, Mardia? You have less than 1 million people voting in all three states.
Well, we hope that we don't have voter apathy.
Hope doesn't work here. It's almost certain that you have maybe just a little over 1 million across these states going to the polls. Yeah, because we know how voter apathy works, especially in an off-season election.
Exactly.
Most people are not motivated to vote anyway. Army General jailed 7 years, ordered to refund 3.7 billion naira. NECO indicts 93 schools for cheating, blacklist 52 supervisors.
Wow.
That's it on the front page of the Punch newspaper for today.
Let's quickly take a look at People's Daily, and let's take a look at the masthead. It's about the election. INEC fixes October 14 for mock accreditation of voters in Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa. Page 6 has details of that story. On Reps probe use of US dollars as a legal tender for domestic transactions in Nigeria. All right, get details of that story in the People's Daily. The lead story here, NCDC named Zamfara, Adamawa, Cross River with highest cholera cases. There seems to be an outbreak of cholera now. Normally people expect cholera outbreak during the rainy season, but we're gradually seeing the end to the rainy season, but we're still having this outbreak, and that's to show that this is not attributed to just the rainy season. But you get details of this report if you read further and the People's Daily. And the bottom stream, 737,308 candidates score 5 credits in mathematics and English. That's according to NECO. Get more details on page 2. And then Senate investigates oil theft in Niger Delta. Page 3 has that story. Nigerian government to no longer pay fuel subsidy, or no longer pay fuel subsidy. That's against the backdrop of the talks by Pengerson there and other stakeholders. Kyari making the statement. You might just want to get more details on page 18, the People's Daily.
Ice Prince song, Somebody Lied.
Somebody lied. Somebody's lying to us.
I mean, Pengerson appeared very serious about knowing the facts that subsidy is still being paid. And
NPCL saying there's no subsidy, APC saying there's no subsidy, even the federal government is saying there's no subsidy. All right, let's see how this goes. And the minister alleges gang up by contractors against the ban on asphalt for roads. All right, you might just want to get this interesting aside. And please nab suspected killers of Voice of Nigeria reporter Danjibga in Zamfara.
Yeah. All right. Let's finally take a look at the Guardian newspaper for today as we wrap it up on the newspaper review. Federal government's bid for concrete roads to spike CapEx amid 10 trillion now owed to contractors. And you have an infographic that breaks it down in great details. Theft, vandalism undermine gas production as Train 7 nears completion. U.S. declares Bazoum's ousting a coup, suspends military aid training to Niger. So all the while, it is not declared that. I mean, it happened way back in July, right? Over 3,000 Nigerians on death row amid calls to abolish capital punishment. Israel, Palestinian envoys defend position as NCPC suspends Christian pilgrimage. Court remands siblings for clubbing uncle to death.
What?
Goodness. And Senate moves to tackle alleged oil theft by security forces and militia groups. All right, that's it on the front pages. Let's get to the analysis of some of these big stories. Joining us now is the unmistakable and of course the ever green, the ever vibrant Mr. Ben Sherman, former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria. Mr. Ben, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Your usual self this morning.
Yes,
always
I've
positive.
done my usual road walk, kilometers 5
nice,
before coming
And
here.
it always puts you in a very good mood. Exercise. does that.
Honestly, don't joke with it at all.
Yeah.
And my happy moment was when I saw that Danjibga,
Yeah.
those who killed him.
Exactly.
The suspects have been nabbed.
Let's start on that note.
Yes.
I mean, as journalists, we know how sensitive our work is, how volatile it is, how easily people can feel threatened by our reportage or things like that. Unfortunately, for a veteran like Danjibga, for instance, who was supposed to have been kidnapped for ransom but was also killed in that process. I mean, talk to me about what this closure means for you, that the culprits have now been finally caught up.
Honestly, I think that the dragnet proper investigation should be done. Those in the police net, you realize that they might be bringing out more facts so that we reach somewhere. Now, if you kidnapped for ransom and thereafter you kill, there are things that beat one's imagination. Let me sway away a bit. those days when Oshimole was governor in Edo State, some armed robbers in fact, got a woman, kidnapped her, collected money, then not just murdered her, dismembered her. I mean, it sounded something else. Now, look at, this guy was killed, they again dismembered him, put in some bags, and stuffed him somewhere. It means that something out of the ordinary was in there. And that's why sometimes when these armed robbers or kidnappers, by the time they kidnap someone, they begin to go into the history of that man's life. Even the social media. I know Dan Jibga has been somebody looking for peace. He's been condemning terrorism, he's been condemning farmers' herders clashes, he's been working for peace. Therefore, I foresee that some people were feeling that as far as they were concerned, that Jibga was a kind of
a threat,
overstepping his bounds, and they felt they should do that. And today, those people will have to be put on the scale of the law. Let's see where they will be.
Unfortunately, around that time when this happened, we also have a case of a journalist, a 27-year-old journalist in Kwara State, who just started the profession, went missing some days, and then his body was found. Investigation taking place and all of that, but we haven't really gotten something tangible to hold on to, just like we have for Dan Jibga. And I know that Judgment Day is coming, but what can we do to avoid all of this in Nigeria, attacks on journalists?
Now, you see, the journalist operates in Nigeria, where today, if you check, virtually every angle has some security challenges. For the journalists, yes, there's what you call safety. On your own side, whatever you're taught in the classroom, when you now reach the operations in the field, there are some native intelligence things that you have to adopt to survive. When I was in service, I always tell my reporters, see, you must stay alive to report the story. Don't be the story yourself. Don't show a kind of heroism when the guns are, there's crossfire. It is then you want to go get some actualities. Please stay alive. So that is rule number one, golden rule number one. Two, don't go challenging someone who is already charged and armed. Don't do it. Safety well reporting, And when you are, again, what you call balancing of story. If you take side in a story, the next time you're getting those you didn't like, of course they will treat you terribly. But if you balance your story, this side will call you, that side will call you, come on, see, we have this, and before you know that confidence, you are a bridge builder, and you find out you scale through.
This is a whole other conversation that we can have at, some other, avenue, especially looking at, the data around journalists and their safety in this country, reporting on the security, politics, governance, and the likes. But if we can start off with, or go back to the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, the big story is talking about this position where you have the global financial powers directing traffic and basically telling central banks and governments what they need to do. This IMF, International Monetary Fund, is telling CBN to stay on course. This monetary policy hike, 14% plus, maintain that is the best way to go, even though experts back at home are saying that, listen, economic growth is too weak to sustain that. Where do you stand on this lack of alignment between what the likes of IMF, World Bank are prescribing to us as medication for a healthy economy, and what we feel here inside domestically and what we believe is not good for us? What's your take on this?
Let me align myself with the Nigerian manufacturers here at home. A situation where the tonic is being given to us abroad without them knowing the ailments we are suffering from, it's not needed.
You think they don't know what's going on here?
Well, you see, there are times, Abdullahi, you could want your child to go to a university or a polytechnic, and he has passed all the credits. But your friend will come and say, let your son go for remedial. What is he remedying? So a situation where they want us to continuously be the providers of raw materials should not just be. And that is why you're talking of every time you are increasing interest rates. How is the economy booming? How many industries are coming? Nigeria has become a place where tourists just come for tourism. I mean, investors come for tourism. What do? Want to invest in this, invest in that, and off they go. We don't see the companies coming. Also, we want Nigerian manufacturers given that environment, that impetus. If IMF is saying this is your tonic, and we say it's not workable here, you are forcing it down our throats, we say no. And how do we say no? By investing. First, what are we doing with agriculture? Today we're hearing that flood is killing how many people? To what extent have we made use of this dangerous flood? If we say we can cage this flood by way of channeling them to some dams, who is saying that we can't do that? Who is saying that we can't adopt a dry season farming? And if we do all of this, our gross domestic product, whatever we are producing inside Nigeria, yes, people will come in. And when you come in, for God's sake, look at the mangoes, the cashew, the ginger, the everything here, the rice here that we produce. Who is saying that we cannot multiply all of this and begin to feed ourselves rather than always importing rice that has spent 5-10 years in America,
but also
in Vietnam, before coming to Nigeria.
Also part of that is that our economic growth forecast has been revised down to 2.9%, which is something in itself that tells, foreign investors about investing here, because they have to look at the numbers. It's a numbers game for investors, isn't it? They're just looking for profit anyway. What do you make of that? Plus, also a part of that conversation is the CBN and the House of Reps in a conversation around curbing speculative forex, stabilizing the naira, illegalizing the spending of dollar here in the country. What do you make of some of these adjustments? Because the IMF is also very proud of some of the reforms that the Tinubu administration has undertaken so far, like the subsidy removal, for instance.
Yes, but what has been brought on the table of the Nigerian to eat, no matter how IMF presses us, we know where the shoe pinches. And for the House of Reps or the lawmakers, looking at the naira, the fluctuation up and down, and the scarcity of the naira, I think that they have some oversight functions to do. It's not just sometimes we are setting up a panel, we are going to investigate. We've been hearing investigation. But Abdullahi, let's go down. Tell me the economy that, do you know at the point some Nigerians were saying we should have 5,000 naira note? For God's sake, what does it say concerning inflation? I love this e-currency, or what we call e-naira. We can just buy things and transfer your money electronically, not necessarily carrying these things, whether it's Ghana must go or Ghana has come. Tell me the economy that does not use coins. Look at the developed world. Whether it's the CBN now can do so. Look, if he goes to London, they'll still give him some coins. If he goes to America, the same. But before you called me, tell me, we are with the least of the least denomination, the currency we don't see them, 5 naira note. And the inflation trend, therefore, will have to be there. And that's why we believe in all this round figure thing. I want to buy bitter cola. It is 7 naira. The man doesn't have change for 3 naira to give me. So he makes it 10 naira. And in that order, you go to buy yam. You don't get yam of, say, 11 naira. No, it has to be round figure, either 10 or 15. Because they always tell you no change. There is no economy that does not believe. These lower denominations are the ones in circulation. Huge notes, big notes. The other time, just a moment, we went for training in Germany. My colleague made the mistake of having two notes of 500 euros. I tell you, the luck she had worked with Deutsche Welle and she had an account there. She had to dump that money there. Anywhere we wanted to buy, so where did you get this money from? They will always never collect those high denominations. But with us, you go to a bank, you want to take 100,000 naira. They are giving you 100. Say, Oga, Now me, you go give 100, 1,000 no day. So that tells you this kind of.
It's safe to say, Mr. Ben, that gone are the days when you can actually buy something with 1 naira. I mean, right now,
if the government refuses to impose the fact that these monies are legal tenders, and of course we spend money to print them and they are not legal tender, you don't see them, all you do is big denomination, we are doomed. And the economy would not strive very well.
Speaking about legal tender now, what would you say about some elites in the country using dollars as legal tender to pay fees and even for transactions in Nigeria? Yes,
you see, if you also go, these elites, some of them buy the high government guys. They take the naira. This scarcity of hard currency you don't see. Governors and some ministers, that's some people, hard currency. So if the government officials are already flouting all of this, then you can know where inflation is going to. And a situation where some people will say, no, don't give me that big bag of money. Just change it to some mobile currency. Some things you can just pocket and they won't shake you. And that was why, like I said earlier, some guys were actually gunning for having a 5,000 naira note in this country. I mean, if you had that, somebody is going to give you 100,000. You just squeeze it and put here. If you say that is portable, yes, one of the qualities of money is that the thing they call portability. But that is really not the meaning of portable money.
Let's wrap it up with a look at developments in Katsina and see if we can mirror it to other states where this is now becoming a trend. The governor of Katsina State just yesterday launched the Katsina Community Watch Corps. We're seeing this normalization or regularization of, some of these non-state or now apparently state-sponsored security outfits. It started with Amotekun in the southwest. We have Ebube Agu in the southeast, and there's several formations across the states. Different Operation Faraute this, Operation this, sponsored by the state government, where you have vigilantes, hunters, and some police officers, in a joint task force. Give me a sense of why this is becoming a new normal now for us in this country to answer the security challenge.
The sense in it that I'll give you is that time has come. You see, when people are talking of community policing, you find out that past IGs will always say Nigeria is not yet ripe. Tell me a country that is not yet ripe where people are not sleeping with their 2 eyes closed. When indeed you need this community policing where everybody is a police officer. And of course, the policemen that are now the real guys on duty that the state will pay will so much depend on everybody, because everybody is a volunteer kind of a force to ensure that community is policed, is better off. And I saw that General Kuka Sheka, former spokesman for the army, wrote something like that, and I just said, yes, the North should just learn from the Southwest states, where they form one single kind of organization.
Security block.
But here we are. Kaduna, you pretend you have something that will check something of this nature. You go to Katsina, it's a different thing. You go to Sokoto, it's a different thing. Why don't you do, in commercial circle, let me borrow it that way, a one-stop kind of a thing? If you have something with a name that cuts across every state, and by the time you said you go on operation, you blow the whistle, come on, these 2 weeks, all of you in Kaduna, all of you in Katsina, all of you in Sokoto, move and move. And by the time they move ahead, the military is always behind. But because they know every nook and cranny, borrowing from the civilian JTF in the northeastern part of the country, you see that these JTF guys will always, JTF guys, civilian joint task force, they know everywhere. By the time they enter every place, the military will come and end the operation.
All right.
Thank you.
So good for Katsina.
Yeah, good for Katsina indeed.
I know that should follow.
All right.
Let's leave it here for now. I believe others are indeed following. If you get a temperature of what's happening across the country, Mr. Ben Sheman, as always, can't thank you enough for your invaluable insight and analysis on today's top stories. Thank you very much for stopping by.